another edition of Budget in Focus. Today I'm joined by the Honorable Minister of Public Telecommunications, Catherine Hughes. It's a privilege to have you on the program. How are you?
I'm good, I'm great.
Okay, well, the focus is on Budget 2018. Now, before we get into the meat of the matter, could you give us some general thoughts about the budget as presented by Finance Minister Mr. Jordan?
I thought it was a good budget. I'd like to say that it's very similar to a budget that you have at home. I don't know anybody that has more than they actually need, so it's always trying to make the best of the resources that you have. And there's no question that we've had challenges in our economy, in Guyana in general, and therefore we are trying to make the best use of limited resources. And I thought that he did a very good job given those challenges.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Now, ICT, very important topic today, and it's very important given what is going on globally. Could you give us some priority areas that the government will be focusing on through your ministry in terms of developing our ICT infrastructure?
Right, so I like to say, and I mentioned it in my speech, that ICT, Information Communication Technology, really is what I would like to term a transformative industry. What we're trying to do here in Guyana is to bring the use of ICT into all the sectors. As I mentioned, when you look at statements from Ban Ki-moon, when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, there's a special goal called Goal Number 9 that encourages countries to ensure that they're improving access to internet, because that is almost like the gateway to development. And so for us, what we've tried to do in our strategy is to ensure that more and more places in Guyana, and here we're talking about schools, we're talking about ministries, we're talking about the provision of services online, which of course impacts positively on development. So our agenda is to try and improve the internet access within the country. We recognize that there's a very real digital divide in Guyana. Whether we want to accept it or not, the people along the coast have better access to the internet. It means then for kids in terms of education, being able to do projects, research online. It means when you're talking about health, if you're going to have a meeting with a doctor and you want to research what it is you have, if it is that you're in a location, for example, Massakanari, it could be Lethem, and they may not have a specialist there in the health center that you go to, then the internet provides opportunities for you to learn online in the health area, to speak to specialists just through video conferencing, through the technology that's available. So we really see the provision of internet as a way of bridging the divide. So in this year, coming 2018, we are focusing specifically on our hinterland, poor and remote communities. I'm really excited that last Friday we signed onto a project that's funded by the GRIF Fund. And it is a project that is called Expanding the Internet Access to Rural, Poor, and Remote Communities. And it means that project we're going to be getting $17 million, and US dollars that is, and it allows us now to do some specific things in hinterland, poor, and remote communities. That target, of course, includes some places in Georgetown, other parts of Guyana, but most importantly, our hinterland area. These are areas where, as you know, there may be one telephone service, just maybe a few places may have both telephones providers, and many places have absolutely nothing. So we have not been able to have our own fiber optic network that goes south. I mentioned in my budget presentation again that we spent a good $2 billion on that project in the last government, but of course the cable was badly laid and there was no connectivity going down south. So we're having to do it the expensive way. We're having to buy satellite time and go wireless to some of the communities that we're providing internet access to. But I am happy that we've been able to do that. We've started and focused on schools and the creation of ICT hubs. In the schools, we've done the Bina Hill Institute, we've done all the high schools in places like in Bartica, in Georgetown on the coast, in Berbice, most parts. We've actually connected 94 schools. That's the easiest way to give you an example. And in terms of the ICT hubs, this is a safe space that any child, any adult, any woman can go to. You get access to a computer, free internet access, and again, that is part of the driving force of what we're trying to do.
Okay, and how many, you mentioned ICT hubs, how many of these hubs will be created in 2018 to add to the already 94 that you have, schools that you have?
Right.
We actually intend to create a total of 200. And we have done, out of those 94, we have probably, no, those are the schools. The ICT hubs, we have 83 hubs. And out of those ICT hubs, we probably did over 60 this year alone. And therefore, next year we are going to be able, I would say, to do a comparable amount, especially under the program and the project that I mentioned to you starting in January 2018.
Okay. In your presentation, you mentioned ICT and business. What are some of the collaborations you'll be doing in order to push ICT in business?
Right. This again is where I feel really energized and strongly about the fact that ICT, access to ICT and internet has fantastic opportunities for entrepreneurial development. And so I like to say that, for too long, we don't recognize that the world has changed. Long ago in my parents' time, you come out of university or you go to a job and you stay in that job till you're 60. That doesn't happen today. If you look at the world, all the big money makers are people that are entrepreneurs and doing their own business. And so ICT allows us, young people especially, based in Guyana, to have the same opportunities as whether you're in the US or Germany or London. And so the beautiful thing is that with training, and here ICT gives you an opportunity to learn do any course you want to online. It allows you to research any business opportunity online. It allows you to market your project for next to nothing in terms of cost. And so the possibilities for entrepreneurial development are endless. What we're going to be doing at our ICT hubs and also through the ministry's Industry and Innovation Unit is that we have started to spur that entrepreneurial development. And so as you know, we've had 2 hackathons in the 2 years that we have been around. We've also had a code sprint. And these are opportunities where we've brought young people together to sit down, and they have 48 hours and they have to develop an app. The way of the world of the future is the development of apps. And just imagine we could have a Guyanese entrepreneur that's selling an app or at the Play Store or at the Apple Store. So that's where it could go. And the beauty about it is that, as I said, technology breaks down the barriers. I just about a year ago had the opportunity to meet a woman in Surama. She's now selling her hammocks online. Now before, the only opportunity she had was when somebody actually went to the village of Surama and saw her and bought a hammock. Mm-hmm. So again, this is a real way of changing people's lives. In my speech I mentioned I've met a young lady who's selling tamarind balls to the diaspora, and we think it's tamarind balls, but the reality is, every time I tell people when I go to visit my sister, the one thing I have to buy and carry is tamarind balls. So I've been able to say to her recently, go online and buy your tamarind balls here. So there are real opportunities. We are also providing through our hubs and the ministry, we are aggressively going after the training aspect. We actually hired a very innovative young man. He's below the age of 25, and he is our business analyst. And he is actually going to locations where we have these ICT hubs, to the schools, and he's looking for the bright, shining young people that have great ideas. And we are bringing them on board so that we are going to be able to give them the requisite training and support in terms of business administration and business development. In this year's budget, I was excited to see that the Small Business Bureau and a couple other funding agencies are providing more funds specifically for young people. And just Sunday I was at a youth training program. That excites me. For example, there are two young people that are doing their own Uber service where you're dialing for a taxi through your phone. I mentioned a few of them. There are applications for putting together people that are in the agriculture fields with potential markets for agricultural products. And this is an app that was developed by a group of young people. Again, they're all below the age of 24. There's so many great things. So I just want to encourage the private sector too, to recognize that ICT plays an important part in how they modernize their businesses, and that they're young people with the requisite skills that can develop all the applications and all the technologies. We talk about technology, about agriculture in Guyana, but we have to start revolutionizing the way we do agriculture so it's attractive to young people. And next year, one of the things we're looking at too is e-agriculture, because here we're talking about getting young people to build robots that are going to be able to water fields of produce, that will be drones that can fertilize. That's the way of the world, and our commitment is to drag Guyana into this new digital age.
Okay, talking about the digital age, Minister, government mentioned that we will be connecting all government agencies.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that and how that will help to develop Guyana and also improve business operations for the regular citizen, NIS and so forth?
Sure. Now we have already, and when I say we, I mean the NDMA, the National Data Management Agency, through the e-government network that they've merged about 3 months ago, and they come under the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. So we've already connected all the ministries. When I say connected, what we have done is that we have provided internet access to those ministries as a public service. We've also provided secure email addresses. We are maintaining, for those that have websites, we are actually maintaining their websites on a government portal. And eventually our vision is to have all the government websites in one location. So imagine you would be able to maybe type in, governmentguyana.com. And there you would be able to go to whether you want passports, whether you want to check your NIS payments, whether you want to go to GRA, what do I owe in my corporation tax, or whatever it is. So part of what we're doing is really connecting all these ministries, all these agencies. We're also creating internet access points. And that is a point where we feel that if, for example, I am coming to a ministry, as a citizen, I should be able to have internet access whilst I'm in that ministry. Meaning that you could be sitting there at NIS and you need to apply for a passport, and that little computer called a smartphone, you could be sitting in the waiting room and already start your passport application process. So what we are committed to doing is ensuring that more government services are provided online. We want to get away from the days when you had to go to the passport office and line up for 4 hours just to put in your passport application. I'm happy to say about 3 months ago, a relative of mine went to renew a passport and it took exactly 7 minutes. But we want to take the whole process a step forward. You must be able to stay at home on a Sunday, fill in your passport application, send it in. They may respond to you and say, guess what, you forgot to fill in number 4, number 5. There is two-way communication. And the only time you go to the passport office is maybe to take your secure digital photograph or to pick up the passport. And the same principle applies for applying for a driver's license, a business registration. Again, this is extremely important in places like the hinterland areas, the Rupununi, where you're required to literally travel distances to apply to register a business, to apply for your certificate or whatever it is. So that's the thrust, making it easier for citizens and more efficient. The other thing I want to say is that the more we use technology, the more transparent the process is, the less opportunity it is for humans to interface, and that's where the corruption comes. I mean, if I have to sit down and fill in an application online, there's no interface with somebody in some office that says, give me $5,000 and I'll set it up for you, which we know is an epidemic that continues to pull Guyana down. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
All right. We did talk a little bit about ICT and education, but apart from the ICT hubs, what other projects will be incorporated into the education system using ICT?
Right. So the education part is extremely important. We just about 6 months ago, we actually donated a video conferencing facility to the University of Guyana. And it's the same kind of principle that applies. That video conferencing facility allows the Tain campus and the Turkine campus to communicate. It means that in terms of a vision moving forward, individuals, young people, old people, whatever age you are that might be located in Berbice and living in Linden, who today drive on a daily basis to UG to get their education. We want to be able to create more smart classrooms with video conferencing facilities. So that imagine if I am doing a degree in, let's say, economics, I will know that wherever the smart classroom is in Linden or in the Rupununi, let's say in Anai at the Bina Hill Institute, I would be able to network with the hub, let's say UG Turkine campus, and facilitate, it depends on numbers, it depends on a couple of things, what time I can be in that hub, speaking to or participating in the same class that is taking place at the UG campus. It has similar applications for schools. Quite often, if you are in a hinterland or a remote community and you wanted to do biology, given the shortage of teachers, there may not be a biology teacher, let's say in Sarama or in Napi Village. But certainly, you would be able, with connectivity, to have an opportunity to connect with Bishop's High School, QC, Roses, whichever school has the biology syllabus that you would want to participate in. The same application applies in the area of health. The reality is that many of our health centers do not have internet connectivity. And so when you think about the possibilities of getting preventative health care before an emergency takes place, right now that doesn't exist. We want to change that. And how we change it is that we're going to create smart health centers. And again, with internet connectivity, a patient who is having complications has the opportunity to sit with the healthcare worker and speak to a specialist at the Georgetown Public Hospital. So this is extremely important. In that area, we have another project that is called the Broadband Access Project, which is going to be done by Huawei, the Chinese company. And we have an application into China Exim Bank for funding. I'm hoping that we will get approval by the start of next year. And that project provides something like 36 million US dollars worth of equipment, possible internet access, the data center that's required, the connectivity at more of our ministries for us to be able to do all these things. When you talk about how it impacts on ministries too, Imagine that the Ministry of Finance has an IFMIS system whereby individuals, all their offices throughout the length and breadth of Guyana, are inputting expenditures and incomes in different areas. And this, just having internet connectivity allows them to do that easier and in real time. So the possibilities are exciting and endless.
Okay. Before we wrap up, before my final question, what are some other projects that will be undertaken by the Ministry of Public Telecommunications come 2018?
By March of 2018, we expect to commission our Center of Excellence in Information Technology. That is actually a training school that is, we got assistance from the Indian government to the tune of $30 million. And they are creating a training institution that's located on the campus of University of Guyana. That institute focuses on providing training to members within the public sector. So what we're recognizing is that as we're pushing this digital agenda, people within the ministries need to be up to date, have the skills. And these skills could be in terms of website development, data management and processing, data design, some of the systems, the operating systems for different computers, a range of specific skills. And so that entity will be providing training around the clock. There are going to be 3 tutors from India that will be coming to Guyana initially, and already, although it hasn't been commissioned, they've already trained 100 members of the private sector already. And so here is a range of training opportunities that will be provided absolutely free to the public sector to update our skills so we can meet the targets that I've explained.
Okay, and my final question would be, what are some of the thoughts you would like to leave with Guyanese as it relates to budget 2018?
I would like to say that 2018 is going to be a very exciting year. I think that quite often we just don't recognize that it takes time to fix some of the issues and challenges that Guyana has been facing since I was a child. I grew up hearing about this potential. I never really expected that I would be here, sitting here, trying to make the potential realize. But I just want to say that, everywhere else in the Caribbean, in many parts of the world, they are excited about Guyana. I'm happy that young people are excited about Guyana and the opportunities that are coming. And as you can see, we've talked about ICT. I haven't mentioned once oil, because the commitment of this government is that our other sectors have to be pushed and developed. We can learn from Trinidad, we can learn from Venezuela today that you cannot depend on the fluctuating prices of an oil industry. So when it comes, it's going to be bonus. It's going to give us a big leap into developing and fixing our schools and our infrastructure. But most importantly, I want to say that I want Guyanese to be able to prepare themselves for the new Guyana. I worry sometimes that we just listen to all the fake news that is around, and it is abounding. I mentioned, for example, in closing my speech, that yesterday, the members of the opposition were laughing hysterically at a $500 increase in pensions. And I was able to say that in 2003, the former government increased pensions by $92. In another year, they increased it by $93 and $90. And really, this government has increased pensions 49% in the last 2.5 years. There are challenges. Again, I mentioned that in terms of our sugar industry, we are dealing with a challenging situation that Guyana as a country should have started to diversify and find a solution for 20 years ago. I was living in Jamaica in 1980, and they had started in 1980 to transform their sugar industry. And many parts of the Caribbean did the same thing. We're now trying to do it when the crisis, both Ghana falls. And when you consider that and the impact in the budget, imagine that in these 2.5 years, we have already given $32 billion. That's more than $1 billion a month to keeping the sugar industry and starting the transition process. So when we, start to sit down and cuss up about what we didn't get and what we didn't get, you got to understand that, $32 billion has gone to sugar, plus an additional $6.8 billion is going to go by next year. But the thing is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I am convinced that Guyana in 2020 will be far different from where we are right now.
Thank you so much, Minister, and thank you, viewers, for joining us with Budget in Focus. I had with me Minister of Public Telecommunications, Ms. Catherine Hughes. Bye.
Thank you.